During World War II, the skies were crowded with aircraft, each striving to prove its worth. Yet, among them, were designs so peculiar and unnerving that even their own pilots weren't sure whether to welcome the protection or fear it. Imagine a plane resembling a flying coffin, where the pilot could only see the world through narrow slits, or a machine that required its propeller to be jettisoned via parachute during landing to prevent a catastrophic crash. Designers proposed ideas teetering on the edge of genius and madness, and the military seriously considered them for warfare. Why did these projects never reach the battlefield? What does the history of experimental dive bombers, about which silence was preferred, conceal? Watch this video to the end to discover how war gave birth to the most terrifying, risky, and scandalous inventions that could have altered the course of battles but remain mere ghosts in museums. By the late 1930s, the sky no longer belonged to slow airships or heavy bombers. Even swift fighter planes didn't always determine the outcome of a battle. A new era was ushered in by dive bombers, which transformed aerial combat into precision strikes, where a single aircraft could change the tide of an entire operation. Their strength lay in speed and almost unbelievable accuracy. Pilots plunged downwards at steep angles, approaching the ground with a terrifying engine roar, releasing their bombs at the moment when a miss seemed impossible. These seconds of diving became moments of panic for ground troops, causing even the strongest defenses to crumble. Where dozens of aircraft were once needed, a few now sufficed. They attacked bridges, depots, troop convoys, and sometimes even massive ships. This was precisely what happened at the Battle of Midway, when American pilots in Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers unleashed their might upon the Japanese fleet. It seemed the entire battle hung in the balance, but one successful pass turned the enemy's superiority into their demise. Several aircraft carriers sank within mere hours, marking a turning point in the Pacific War. Such episodes elevated dive bombers from mere weapons to symbols of a new kind of warfare. Their emergence altered battle tactics, forced armies to revise strategies, and demonstrated that precision and determination could be more crucial than brute force and numerical superiority. While Europe was just sensing the approach of the Great War, the ominous howl of the Ju-87 was already echoing in the Spanish skies. The German Condor Legion, supporting Franco's forces, gained invaluable experience there, and it was the Stuka that became a terror-inspiring weapon. Its characteristic siren wail, attached to the landing gear struts, turned every dive into a psychological assault. Soldiers pressed themselves into the ground. Civilians watched with horror as the rapidly growing shadow passed over their cities. Germany saw that it possessed a weapon capable not only of destroying fortifications, but also of undermining morale. When the invasion of Poland began, the Ju-87 again proved its mettle. Columns of armored vehicles, river crossings, fortified defense lines, all crumbled under the precise blows of the Stuka. German troops advanced with the confidence that the skies were protected by these machines, capable of clearing the path for entire divisions in a single sortie. It was then that the Ju-87 became the symbol of blitzkrieg, a war built on lightning-fast assaults and close coordination between air and ground forces. However, behind these successes lay unsettling signals. The Ju-87 was relatively slow and vulnerable to modern fighters. Where the enemy possessed a strong air force, the Stuka became easy prey. The German command understood that against more prepared adversaries, psychological impact and bombing accuracy alone would not be enough. This is precisely why, in the early years of the war, they began seeking new solutions that could combine pilot protection, more robust armament, and superior aerial performance. Wolfgang and Ulrich Hütter came to aviation not from military circles, but from the world of gliders. Their names were well known in Germany during the 1930s among enthusiasts of unpowered flight. They created elegant designs, extracted the maximum from aerodynamics and lightweight materials, and learned to harness the air where there was no engine. This experience shaped them as engineers who could see more in the sky than just a means of warfare. For them, flight was an art, and gliding was a test of pure aerodynamics. But soon, new priorities loomed over the country. The Reich Aviation Ministry sought bold designers ready to propose innovative solutions for future combat aircraft. Dive bombers had become an integral part of strategy, but more was demanded of them. They needed not only to hit targets, but also to survive anti-aircraft fire. This led to the idea of creating an aircraft with near impenetrable protection for the pilot. Thus, the Hooter brothers received a challenge they had never anticipated. From light gliders soaring over green hillsides, they were to transition to creating a new generation of armored dive bombers. These were machines where strength and the ability to withstand direct blows of fate played the primary role, not grace and lightness. When the drawings for the H-136 appeared, its form immediately captivated the imagination. The most unusual part of its construction was the cockpit, which resembled an armored box integrated into the rear section of the aircraft. The pilot was essentially enclosed in a steel sarcophagus, surrounded by several centimeters of armor. For the aviation ministry, this fulfilled the main requirement: maximum crew safety. After all, conventional dive bombers too frequently became easy targets for anti-aircraft fire. However, this armor came at a steep price. Instead of the usual canopy with panoramic views, the pilot received only a small round window in front and narrow slits on the sides. Imagine a person in the sky, where speed and orientation are everything, effectively flying almost blind. They were protected from bullets, but lost the ability to fully observe the battlefield. Engineers believed that the sturdy shell would provide a chance to survive a hit and return from a mission, but for the pilot, it meant constant tension. Every turn became a guess, every attack, a risk of missing the target. The Hu-136 became a paradox, a steel fortress that could save the pilot's life, but simultaneously deprived him of his primary weapon: sight. If the cockpit of the H-136 impressed with its impregnability, its takeoff and landing system seemed even more extraordinary. The designers abandoned conventional landing gear, deeming it an unnecessary weight that would burden the aircraft and reduce its maneuverability. Instead of wheels, they proposed a detachable trolley that was attached to the fuselage only for takeoff. As soon as the machine gained speed and lifted into the sky, the trolley detached and remained on the ground, like an extraneous part. Landing, on the other hand, became an elaborate procedure. Retractable skids, designed to absorb the impact with the ground, were hidden beneath the aircraft's belly. But the most unusual part awaited the pilot just before touchdown. He had to release the propeller along with its hub. This component would descend separately on a small parachute, allowing ground crews to retrieve it later for reinstallation. Otherwise, the propeller would inevitably dig into the ground during landing and be destroyed. From an engineering perspective, this system reduced the structural weight and helped avoid damage during rough landings. But for the pilot, it was an ordeal for the nerves. One wrong move, and the aircraft could skid on the runway, losing stability, while releasing the propeller added another layer of risk. The H-136 appeared as a machine born on the verge of genius and madness, light on takeoff but extremely temperamental upon its return. The project, named Sturzbomber, from the German word for dive bomber, was conceived in two versions. The first, Sturzbomber F-Ring, was shorter and lighter, designed for a single pilot, and could carry up to 500 kilograms of bombs on an external hardpoint. It was intended to combine the maneuverability of a fighter with the armor and precision of a dive bomber, remaining compact and relatively simple to produce. The second version, Sturzbomber 2, looked far more imposing. Its fuselage was longer, and it was designed to carry a bomb load of up to 1 ton internally, making the aircraft better protected against stray hits. According to the Hooter brothers' design, this modification could strike large fortifications and ships while maintaining the same wing proportions as the first version. Despite their differing roles, both machines shared the same heart: a 12-cylinder, liquid-cooled Daimler-Benz DB601 engine, producing around 1,200 horsepower. This engine was intended to provide these unusual aircraft with the power for swift attacks. But behind the ambitious calculations lay a question: would such unconventional designs withstand the harsh trials of real war? On paper, the H-136 appeared as a machine of the future. Its length was approximately 7 meters, its wingspan reached 6.5 meters, and its takeoff weight approached 3.5 tons. The calculations promised impressive performance, a range of up to 2,000 kilometers and a ceiling of around 9,500 meters. For a single-engine dive bomber, this seemed like a genuine breakthrough. However, behind the attractive figures lay a harsh reality. The main problem lay in the cockpit's placement. The pilot sat almost at the tail, and his absorb was catastrophically limited. What looked like enhanced protection on paper actually turned the pilot into a prisoner of a steel box, forced to rely more on instruments and intuition than his own eyes. Maneuverability also raised questions. The shortened wings and heavy armor reduced agility in combat, and landing on the skids required filigree precision. Any error threatened a crash. The aircraft's survivability was also dubious. While direct hits might save the pilot, the machine itself remained vulnerable, and the probability of returning from a mission was low. Thus, the H-136 found itself in a peculiar position. On paper, it promised the Army a versatile weapon, a fast, protected, long-range dive bomber. But in reality, the project increasingly resembled a risky experiment, balancing bold engineering fantasy with practical uselessness. The war left no time for lengthy experiments. The German command needed aircraft that could be quickly mass-produced and immediately deployed to the front. The H-136, with its exotic solutions, seemed bold but excessively risky. Paper and model tests could not replace real-world reliability. This is why the choice fell on the more conventional Henschel HS-129. This aircraft didn't dazzle with unusual designs, but compensated with practicality. Its twin-engine configuration provided greater stability and power reserve, and its armored cockpit offered the pilot protection without sacrificing normal visibility. Unlike the H-136, which remained an experiment, the Henschel gradually entered service and was deployed on the Eastern Front against Soviet armored vehicles. Alongside it, the Ju-87 continued its role as the primary dive bomber, though it showed its weaknesses in the face of strong anti-aircraft defenses. Consequently, two aircraft, different in design but proven in action, shared the role of strike aviation. The Ju-136 simply didn't fit into this scheme. It was too unconventional for mass warfare. Practical factors like production speed, ease of maintenance, and pilot training overrode all the Hutter brothers' innovations. In combat situations, what mattered was what could be used here and now, not what looked impressive on a blueprint. The H-136 remained a machine that never experienced true flight. It existed in drawings, mock-ups, and ambitions, but not a single unit took to the air during the war. For the Hutters, it was a step into the world of large-scale aviation, but a step that didn't lead to its intended destination. History dictated otherwise. The German army bet on more reliable aircraft, and their unusual project was gradually forgotten. Yet, time has restored its place, not on an airfield, but in a museum. In the American Virginia Beach Air and Space Center, a full-scale replica of the H-136 stands today. It was acquired in the late 1980s and displayed alongside other Luftwaffe machines. Now, any visitor can see the unusual path engineers took when desperately seeking new solutions during wartime. This replica seems to speak more than a real flight ever could. Sometimes, the boldest ideas remain just ideas. The Ju-136 became not a weapon, but a reminder that war spawned projects on the brink of genius and madness. It became an exhibit, a symbol of daring design thought and, simultaneously, its helplessness against the harsh realities of the front. The H-136 remained an unsuccessful project, but it holds a special place in aviation history. It's not just another aircraft that was never built, but a symbol of how far engineers were willing to go in their pursuit of military superiority. Its design embodied brilliant daring and a complete disregard for pilot comfort, cold calculation, and almost fantastic ideas. War pushed designers beyond the familiar. Where peacetime would have demanded rationality, the arms race allowed even the most insane solutions. An armored cockpit at the tail, propeller release by parachute, landing on skids. All of this looked like a mix of engineering adventurism and a desperate hope to find an invulnerable aircraft. The Ju-136 serves as a reminder that sometimes daring is more important than caution, even if it doesn't lead to success. Today it is perceived as a curious page in history, a museum exhibit that demonstrates the limits of the era's capabilities and misconceptions. This aircraft reminds us that war not only creates heroes and tragedies, but also compels engineers to devise solutions that, in different times, would be deemed impossible. The H-136 is a memory that aviation history was built not only on successful projects, but also on strange ideas, without which the picture of the past would be incomplete.